I don't think that those people had any ill intentions to do any wrong. It's that everyone is feeding from the same trough. They're all going to the same conferences, they're all reading the same thing, and they're all implementing outdated strategies. And so the key word for me is whenever you hear funnels, that's something that was linear. It is linear, and that was developed at the age of the internet when there wasn't options. And as a customer, your journey was very much linear. That's not the case anymore. And so I was frustrated from hearing of people having bad or poor outcomes of marketing and kind of grunting when they hear that word marketing, like, oh, yeah, marketing. We don't really do that. It doesn't work for us. And the thing is this, Gene, is without marketing, you won't have sales. And without sales, you don't have a company that's sustainable. So it's foundational for your success is you have to have marketing if you're going to scale.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Today, we're going to talk about marketing, specifically marketing built with love, with the author, Daniel Bussius. Daniel and I had a great conversation about marketing and what is wrong with marketing, what is you've got to get right, and some of the core foundational elements that people just don't understand as things have changed. We do talk about some of the changes that are happening with AI. Marketing is changing fast, but there's some core things in there. I love what he talks about with a great travesty, and I'm going to leave that as a little bit of a spark of curiosity because it will help you, and it's very specific and sharp, and you can do it today. If you listen to the podcast, you will be able to tune in to what a great travesty is and how to use it inside your own marketing. So that's our episode today. Looking forward to it. My name is Gene Hammett. I'm an executive coach. We do leadership development where we help fast-growing companies create the kind of leadership that really keeps things driving predictably and sustainably. And we do this through cultural transformations. We also help managers become leaders. And it may sound like we do a lot, but just over the time, last decade plus of working with people, we've added specific things that matter the most to our clients. We've been executing on those at a high level. And if you're curious about some of those things, we'd love to talk to you about them. Now, if you're not so curious to reach out to me directly, but you want to tune in to what's going on, or maybe you want to hear from others, we actually offer a unique experience called a virtual conversation. You can find out more at coreelevation.com/virtual conversations. Every month we do it different. We invite guests that have been on the show. We invite special guests sometimes. We invite people that have something to say, but also people that have questions and want to tune into these topics. And so if you're curious about what the next one is, just go to coreelevation.com/virtual conversations, find out what it is. I suggest you go ahead and sign up. Even if you can't make it, we give you a summary, but we'd love for you to tune in to the next one and or anyone that resonates with you so that you can ask questions directly with us or just listen quietly with your camera off. But otherwise, we do a short little Zoom meeting. It's usually 8 to 10 people, so it's good conversations. We'd love to have you join. Just go to coreelevation.com/virtual conversations. Now, here's the interview with Daniel. Daniel, how are you?
I am good. Hi, Gene.
We're going to have a great interview to talk about your book, Marketing Built by Love. But before we dive into that, tell us about you.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Daniel Bussius. I'm CEO of a digital agency called Built by Love. Obviously an author of the book, Marketing Built by Love. And I'm also a speaker.
Well, I have been a student of marketing, I feel like, for 20, 30 years. And things change so fast. And one of the things I say quite often is, yes, technology changes fast, but nothing changes as fast as marketing. Do you feel like that's still accurate today and it's changing at a pace that most people can't even get their head around?
I would argue it's changing even faster, especially with AI, especially with all the tools that are coming out and with social media, the integrations. I feel like a month, if you don't pay attention within 30 days, you're already outdated on what's going on. So I can only imagine if you're not in the marketing world and you just happen to be a passerby looking at everything that's going on, how confusing and overwhelming it could be.
Now, some things don't change, right? There's some core messages, one of them being must always be looking at it from the perspective of the customer, the prospect, or trying to put them in the shoes of this, understanding who they are and whatnot. What else would you add to the things that don't change with marketing as fast as technology?
Yeah, that's a great question, Gene. And I'm going to come back with an answer that's going to seem so simple and obvious, but yet every time you talk to a business owner or a marketing department, they overlook it and forget about it. And that's the one foundational thing that's never going to change, that you're marketing to human beings. And human beings make decisions first and foremost on an emotional level, and then back up that decision with rational logic, but first and foremost with emotion. So technology can change, platforms can change, your medians can change, the way you're going to communicate or sell something can change, but you're still selling to human beings. And there's certain things that are going to have to be met in order to engage them and get them to love you, or at least like you, and then emotionally want to take it further to buy from you.
I love that aspect. And I'd love for you to share, I don't know, how you tune into the emotional side to get people to do it. Is there any special frameworks that you're pulling from the book or in the work that you do to really understand that human to human emotional component?
Absolutely. And if you'll allow me just for a second to take a step back, because I think it's an interesting dynamic of how I came about, finding this and talking about this. And I started my agency in 1998, right? And so at the time of the podcast, I mean, in the marketing world, I don't want to say in a bad realm, but we're almost a dinosaur. We've lived through everything before the ages of Facebook. And the one thing I found again and again and again is that technology and strategies and tactics were always going to change. But the one thing that's not going to change is human beings. And so looking at that, and then I said, well, there has to be something out there that we can rely on and we can build from. I wasn't looking to develop a framework. I was looking to find one that we could implement and harness and use, and I couldn't find it. And so then I started to go on the journey. It took me over 10 years and over $1 million of my own money to then reluctantly develop it. And what I borrowed from is three things. And these are the foundations for you that is going to answer your question. Is first and foremost, is there's 5 scientific stages of how humans develop relationships. And on the most basic level, that's from, someone saying, hey, can I borrow some change? Someone who's a stranger on the street, to let's get married, let's have a family, merge our bank accounts and spend the rest of our life together. There's 5 things that have to happen along the way. And so if you implement those things into your marketing, well, you're going to have some level of success. The second thing is that there's 3 evolutions of the human brain. A lot of that's been talked about in the marketing world, but making sure that you're going to speak to each of those brains, because each of those brains is responsible for different things. Reptilian is survival, mammalian is emotions and feelings, and the human brain is logical, rational, and foreshadowing. And that's where they're going to actually purchase. But you can't get to the human purchasing brain without making it through the other 2 realms first, because those are the gatekeepers. And then the final thing is the customer journey. So implementing the first 2 things I talked about and overlaying that to the customer journey, which are those critical touch points to move them along the way from awareness all the way to purchase.
I love the way you think. And so I'm going to turn our attention back to this book. And I
Yeah.
ask nearly every author the same question because writing a book is hard. As you know, I'm writing my book and my second book and trying to get that out there. But marketing built by love. Why did you have to write this book?
I had to write, that's such a wonderful question. Thank you. I had to write this book because for the decades that I've run my marketing agency, the one thing I found again and again and again is every time I talk to a prospect, a client, or at a networking event or a conference, I would hear the same story again and again and again. And that story is basically some kind of marketing horror story. We've either hired an in-house team, we've hired an outside agency, and we were overpromised and underdelivered. And the thing is this, is I don't think that those people had any ill intentions to do any wrong. It's that everyone is feeding from the same trough. They're all going to the same conferences, they're all reading the same thing, and they're all implementing outdated strategies. And so the key word for me is whenever you hear funnels, that's something that was linear. It is linear. And that was developed at the age of the internet when there wasn't options. And as a customer, your journey was very much linear. That's not the case anymore. And so I was frustrated from hearing of people having bad or poor outcomes of marketing and kind of grunting when they hear that word marketing, like, oh yeah, marketing. We don't really do that. It doesn't work for us. And the thing is this, Gene, is without marketing, you won't have sales. And without sales, you don't have a company that's sustainable. So it's foundational for your success is you have to have marketing if you're going to scale. However, you got to a certain level, if you need to get to the next level, you have to have marketing mastered. And I knew that if I didn't write the book, we could only help a small population of the people of the world. And my goal was I wanted to help as many people as possible. And that's why I decided to go on that journey.
Now, Daniel's been talking about marketing frameworks, and I'm going to share with you one of the things that I've worked with clients on, because I'm not a marketing expert, but I used to do this quite often. And I had a speech out there called Be the Choice, Not a Choice. And what that really was meant to do is help people understand that stop trying to be all things to all people and narrow your focus, narrow your business. Every strategy I've ever done with a client has involved narrowing down their strategy to their perfect ideal customers and dividing or developing solutions and developing messaging and developing a positioning that really helps them do that. Now, I share all this with you because it's not core to my business today, but it's something I believe in and something I would love for you to be able to use and run with. If I can help you with it, you have questions, make sure you reach out to me, Gene@genehammett.com. Back to Daniel. I'm glad you shared that with us because we both know that it's hard. You like to
Yeah.
get to giving birth, even though we all know that there's women here and say there's not, books and birth has nothing to do in common. But
Yeah.
the point is, the analogy is, it's extremely hard. And I love this about books. I've heard this. I can't attribute it to any specific person, but I don't know if you've heard it before. But the best book you will ever read is the book that you write,
Oh, wow.
meaning you have to look at your ideas from a perspective that you've never had to before. And you have to figure out how you're going to communicate these ideas and how do you get people willing to accept these new ideas or approaches. And it makes you sharper with your message. And I love the word precise.
Yeah.
Being able to write the book, marketing, or some
Built by
by
love.
love. What did you get more precise now that you use with your clients that you could share with us and talk about?
Really breaking it down into the most simplistic terms. When you start to talk to, and I know a lot of people say, don't talk in your vernacular. You're going to lose your prospects and customers. And that's one thing where you start to, we had an earlier conversation where you're talking about CRO, right? Like conversion rate optimization. And that's a marketing term. And if you know marketing, you know what those things are. That's a basic level. But really breaking it down into such a simple story framework that they understand the gist of it and they're bought in on that idea. And I think that's something I know for a fact. I already knew it because we wrote it into the book, talk about success stories and other things, but really taking it all the way through. And so if you'll allow me to give you a brief example, most people, most business owners, when they're doing marketing, they send out emails and I say to them, I say, if you could only communicate, your customer is standing in front of you, right? You can only communicate to them with the last 10 emails that you've sent out. Are you going to be embarrassed? And they all kind of laugh and they sheepishly say, yeah. And I say, why is that? Because most of the emails that we send actually offer no value, develop no relationship. It's all buy and it's all about me, 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 me. And it's not about them. So if you want to develop a relationship, you have to treat someone like a real human being, just like in a conversation. If we had, and you said, oh, I have a problem with marketing, I would not immediately say, you know what you need? You need a website. You need a new website. You got to do a website right now. By the way, if you don't do a website, your business is going to tank. And you would say, Daniel, you didn't even ask me what my problem is. I said marketing. I never said website. You just assumed. And most of the times in marketing, that's exactly what we do wrongfully, is we make an assumption that that's what someone wants. And the reality is treat them like a human, ask them, and then say, oh, you have this other problem. You know what? We're having the right conversation. I've helped so many people just like you do that. As for an example, Bob the other day, XYZ, this is what we did. And then that just makes normal conversation. They're bought into it. They're engaged, it's relevant to them. And that's how you have to do your marketing. So I apologize, that was a little bit long-winded of an answer for you, but that's something that we have to do that most people miss the mark on every time.
I agree with you. And I've struggled with this with my own businesses. The funny thing is, and I'm sure you've experienced this because you have probably so many clients, when we have fresh eyes on something, we're not emotionally attached.
Yeah.
We're able to see things completely different. And that's the value of someone like, Daniel and your agency. And certainly I know that not everyone's going to be able to hire you, but the fresh eyes, like, cause I'm too close to my own business. I'm too close to my
Right.
own message, my own, thoughts. And I thought it was clear, but then, an outsider goes, no, that's not clear at all. And those are very helpful if you're open to that truth. And I want to ask you this question. You work with a lot of companies to get their marketing right. What do you wish they understood better so that you could serve them better?
Wow, that's a great question. I would say the first thing is absolutely that you have to understand that marketing is just like any other critical area of your business. And for example, how you do your books, how you do your taxes, how you hire people, the process and the protocols. Those are all frameworks. And arguably enough, that's a production line where if your books, your expenses come in, this is how we do it, this is when we do it by, this is what we're expecting of the outcome, input, output, those are predictable things. We know exactly where we're going to get. Marketing for most businesses does not have that. And what I would say most people don't understand, and I wish they would, is that you need to have an operating system, a foundational marketing plan. Once you have that installed in your business, you're not running around trying to figure out what color button you should have, if you need another landing page or what the next email is going to be. You look at how billion-dollar brands have run their business and how they continue to have massive success. And they're not running around tinkering with their marketing at that level that smaller businesses are. And the reason why is they figured out there's a foundational engine. They build it once, then they focus on content, engaging the ideal customers to drive them into the engine. The engine converts, communicates, engages, and sells with them. Of course, there's assistance with sales and other departments and areas, but the engine is doing the rest. And then all you're doing is feeding the engine fuel, which is your leads, your customers, and then optimizing that over time. And that's reviewing what's working, and if it's working, don't break it or fix it. And if it's under optimized or it's underwhelming for what you're expecting your KPI to be, then adjust it.
Daniel's been talking about a framework, and I believe that frameworks are such a powerful element that we need to have marketing frameworks and sales frameworks that we can run by. And that's one reason why I wrote the book with my wife, Amanda Hammett, How to Have Tough Conversations. So if you're curious about that, you can find it wherever books are. But it really is about you being able to have conversations with people, giving them feedback or sharing bad news, or maybe it's even talking about a blind spot in their world. And too many people avoid them because they're uncomfortable. My hope is to really think about how people showing up as leaders and get them to see these as opportunities to engage people and to grow people and not something to be avoided. If you make that shift, it's going to be a lot easier. Now, the book will also help you with doing and having the conversation. So if you're curious about that, check it out wherever you buy books. We're happy to help you and help you grow. Take care. Back to Daniel. I'm so fascinated with talking to you, Daniel, about marketing. I love marketing. I think that it is a very incredible force inside of businesses. And I see a lot of my clients struggle with it. A lot of them. Yeah. And you would look at them and say, oh, they're really successful companies doing 10 million, 20 million, 100 million. And literally most of them will go, yeah, but our marketing just doesn't work for us. We have sales teams and we have this, that, and the other. So I could ask you a lot of questions from my place of curiosity around storytelling, around AI, and around other aspects of social and whatnot. But I would like to open it up to you. Like, what do you feel like our audiences need to understand and really get from Marketing Built with Love that maybe entices them to go buy the book? Because I know you can't share with it all today, but just like one thing that you really feel like would help them.
I would say one thing that they can implement without having to have any specific technical expertise or marketing know-how is to really develop a great travesty. And so great travesty is something I talk about in the book. And so we're all familiar with mission statements and value propositions, right? And those are a little bit outdated. I mean, big companies still use them, but think about that format. And really the mission statement, the value proposition, even though they're different and they're different elements and they serve different purposes, you can't really tell your customers or your prospects about that. You really can't sell your employees and your staff on those things. They're just kind of words you've spent some time trying to figure out what that is. So the great travesty is really, what is the great wrong out there in the world that your ideal customers are experiencing, and that your company, its purpose, its mission is to solve that for as many people as possible. And if I dare say, as an example, if you look through all of history, you will find great leaders that have changed the world and driven impact, driving people to take action and stand behind that movement. and they use that format. So I didn't develop the great travesty. I've just researched it enough. And you look at, Martin Luther King, I have a dream. It's a great travesty. People being treated unequally. We know how much of a global impact Martin Luther King had. Ronald Reagan, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall. Families are torn apart, and if you look at it again and again and again, you're going to see a lot of times in politics, but companies that really understand their messaging have implemented that, and that enables you. It empowers you as a brand to have a unique proposition that no one else has, that drives on an emotional level, that everyone can understand why you're doing this thing. And they're going to have an understanding, and they're going to align with you. And that's what we call tribal alignment, because every human being at the core wants to be aligned to a tribe. And so whether it's the car you drive, the clothes you wear, whether you're an iPhone or Android person, those are micro tribes that we're associating with. And you want your brand, that great travesty, to create that tribal alignment, that they're on your tribe and they're in your realm of loyalty.
I want to just pause right there for a second as we wrap up today. Like, that's a perfect example of, they probably don't have to read the book, but my hope is that you sparked enough interest talking about this great travesty. They're like, oh, I bet there's a framework inside the book that would help me figure out what that is. I could probably do it without it, but I could probably do it faster and better with a framework that you provide. And I'm assuming this is in your book.
Yeah.
I think you said it, but I wanted to highlight that because this is exactly what I was hoping you would be able to share with us today. Something that they could act on, but then also go, oh, let me lean into this book. Let me start to do it. And I'm going to urge people, don't try to read 42 books on marketing. Find one book to live. And I really feel like if you were wanting to live a book, Marketing Built on Love, right?
Marketing Built by Love. Yeah.
Marketing Built by Love is such a powerful message that you could live this for a long time and execute and optimize what you were talking about, your campaigns and your marketing over time to really reach the people and make a difference in the world. So Daniel, thank you for being here, being a part of the podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gene. It's been a pleasure.
I love talking about marketing, and Daniel really did exceed my expectations today, talking about marketing built with love. And I really am excited to share this with you because the great travesty is something you can easily implement, and that should be enough for you to want to go buy the book and really learn from it and live it. So my hope is that you'll do that to support Daniel, but also just to support the show. And if there's anything we can do for you in terms of leadership development or helping you grow predictably, make sure you reach out to gene@genehammett.com. That's my email. And when you think of growth and you think of leadership, think of Growth Think Tank. As always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.